There is no doubt in saying Spider-Verse is one of the best comic book films of all time. It not only has a great story, it uses the medium of animation to its fullest. But even though it's been the most revolutionary thing since Iron Man, we haven't seen much change inside comic book films. Sure, Spider-Verse changed the animation industry with films like Mitchell's vs. the Machines or Puss in Boots, adapting the style to great effect, and plenty of future films doing the same, like with the new TMNT movie. But the fact remains, we haven't gotten any superhero movies in the style since it came out. Spider-Verse came out at the perfect time, too, to change up the industry. Winter of 2018, just before Endgame, a year after Justice League, both Marvel and DC were in places to change up their approach, and they had time to do it. As you know, nothing of that sort happened. Marvel has continued with their same strategy of serving us projects on a factory line and even speeding that up, while DC has changed course with James Gunn, hopefully for the better, but none have explored the concept of their own Spider-Verse style film. It confuses me so much because James Gunn recently said that Spider-Verse is his favorite comic book film of all time. So while there isn't any way of knowing what goes inside the minds of Kevin Feige or James Gunn, I can at least explain why Spider-Verse needs to revolutionize superhero films and how. When Spider-Verse released, it was beloved for its great story and comic book inspired animation. One of my favorite aspects was its suit designs. Compare Peter B. Parker's suit to Tom Holland's Homecoming suit. In concept, they're both very similar, but to me, the Spider-Verse one looks 10 times better. I thought I just had a preference, but when I started looking at reference photos, I saw Spider-Verse stories where the suits don't look nearly as good. In fact, nowhere, minus possibly the PS4 game, do Spider-Man suits look nearly as good as the suits in Spider-Verse. And I think the reason behind that has to do with animation, and that wouldn't just apply to Spider-Verse. Another amazing comic book film is the Captain Underpants film by DreamWorks. Its style is great at capturing a comic feel, and all the characters are designed great. And if you want to look further back, we have shows like Earth's Mightiest Heroes, X-Men 97, or Batman the Animated Series, which tell great stories and have great designed characters. There is something that makes animation adaptations from comic books work better, in my opinion, and it has been one of the MCU's biggest faults. Comics have always been known to be silly, but because they're comics, the audience can let go a little bit of reality and get sucked into their world. But in live action, that's much harder, especially when so many films take place in cities like New York, and then we can't just see these zany, crazy vehicles and characters. That's hard to get right because it feels out of place. So what many superhero hymns have tried to do in the past 15 years is lean completely into a more sci-fi territory. It means we hardly see the bright costumes and every villain is desaturated. Instead, it's scientific looking vehicles, tanks instead of whatever this is. In the attempt to adapt it into live action, much of that comic book feel is gone. That isn't a bad thing in every situation. Films like Batman, Joker, Logan are examples of things that probably wouldn't work in a Spider-Verse style feel and need to be in live action to work. But a lot of things would work in animation. Animation is so similar to comics where you can let go of your sense of reality while still finding the stories plausible. I mean, both comic books and animation are just drawings, so of course they are similar. So many properties could work in a 3D Spider-Verse style or the Captain Underpants style. And with new technologies like the grease pencil, even more can be done. For those who don't know, grease pencil is a relatively new feature by Blender where you can draw 2D characters in a 3D world. We haven't had a film utilize it though, but if the technology comes to Maya, a more commercially used animation software, it could become very popular. I think one film that could really work is a first Avenger type film. Captain America's design lends really well to 2D, and seeing him run around this gorgeous 3D war European background could be amazing. I think the main limitation to the live action movies is either they won't use crazy comic book stories or they can't execute it well. The Shadow Monsters from Thor and Thunder Great concept, but looked bad due to location. Where you look at Screecher's Reach, an animated project which was recently put up on Disney Plus, and look at the Screecher there. That looks good and it fits the story. Animation has so many different ways to tell stories. It has so many different mediums and styles where pretty much anything could work. Moon Knight to me would look so cool in Spider-Verse style animation. Maybe not as comic booky, but that same 3D approach, and then you have it super trippy, and then maybe for a show like Miss Marvel, or if you want to make these movies, it's like in a 2D style, very stylized to India. As the multiverse saga of the MCU becomes more comic book based, we have seen time and time again that fantasy stories don't work in live action, at least comic ones. They lend themselves much better to animation, and studios should shy away from it. Animation has plenty of benefits. Superhero films have stopped becoming events. Since we get a Marvel project near on a near bi-monthly basis, it isn't something to get overly excited for. Animation takes time. At most, the biggest animation studios make 2 films a year, and that could make superhero films a much bigger deal again. In between Disney and Sony working together for Marvel stuff, you could still have a decent release schedule where you could make a universe like with the MCU and then throw in DC, and that's a good amount of animated films every year. And like I mentioned, there are tons of different styles. Took different if each film looks different, that makes them even more of an event, and you can even turn some of the films into an avatar effect. The point is that animation has tons of benefits for superhero films. Spider-Verse should have been the straw to break the camel's back, but surprisingly it wasn't. My hope is that if Across the Spider-Verse turns out to be good, and the second one is, it could change the tide for superhero films. It isn't too late for Marvel to change course or for DC to add more animation to their pipeline. With my plea for more animation, that doesn't mean only animation. There are plenty of films that deserve to be live action, but the point is, a lot should be animated. I want a world where animated and live action films coexist, when they can both be exciting events that capture big audiences again. Because where we are isn't good enough. Spider Verse showed us that. Hopefully, it will change it. Anyways, though, that's all I have to say. Thanks for watching, and what do you think about the future of comic book films? Which way should they go? Should they completely balance animated and live action like I propose? Maybe even axe live action or no more animation? Make sure to let me know in the comments down below. If you want to see my thoughts on Disney's next animated show, Haley's on it, check out this video. Subscribe for more videos about animation and superheroes. Thanks for watching. I've been Fictional Fanatics, and until the next one, bye!